Hello and welcome to the Big Ideas Show, and welcome to the hot seat, Alice and Stephen from the tongue twister that is Steep Street Coffee House.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited to have a chat and hearing more about how the wonderful Steep Street that I'm sure most of the people out there will know and love came about, as we're talking about the topic which is sticking to your guns.
Yes.
Okay, so we will be back after this. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Wonderful to have you in the hot seat. Normally seeing you on the other side, being super busy in the shop, right? And you got a chance to come and chill.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you didn't take me up on the offer of coffee, because I'd be very embarrassed to serve you guys coffee, because you guys do such wonderful coffee. For those people who don't know what you do, can you give us a very brief overview of what Steep Street is?
So it is a book-filled, library-themed cafe. We're a bookshop as well as a cafe, so our books are for reading, and you can take them away if you fall in love with a book. We have coffees, teas, light lunches, and we make delicious cakes too. We cook absolutely everything we sell on our premises.
Awesome. Okay, and you are based, obviously, as the name suggests, on Steep Street. And I want to tell you a little story, because Mr. Alex Borton told me a little white lie about where the name came from. He told me that your names were Alice Steep and Stephen Street, and that was where the name came from. And
I'm really sorry to disappoint you.
Sorry, yeah, I think you should
change your names by like default or something, because that would really work. Okay, so our discussion for today is sticking to your guns, because I've heard a tiny little bit about your story, and I thought it was kind of really exciting and really inspiring for kind of other small businesses, people looking to start something up, because you've clearly done something amazing where you are, and I think it's lovely to hear the background to that. But before we go into that, I want to ask you some quick fire questions.
Okay,
yeah?
You go for it.
Okay. What did you want to be as a child?
I think first I wanted to be a vet.
Yep.
And then...
Second vet we've had.
Yeah, and then I wanted to be an artist.
Okay, nice.
And I also started off wanting to be a farmer, I think, after a school trip, and then to be a writer.
Okay.
Really.
Oh.
Am I too?
It's like, well, you've got obviously the books and all the artwork, so I like that there's still a bit of that in
A
there.
tiny bit left.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Question 2. If you weren't doing this, what else would you be doing?
I'll probably be doing the jobs we were doing before.
Yeah.
So I work for a charity.
Yeah.
Called Renewable World. And would you be doing?
And I probably would be stuck in a fairly mundane job in London in office. So yeah, so probably would have still been there if we hadn't sort of taken the plunge.
So this is much better.
Yeah, much better.
Definitely. And you get to come and sit under these hot lights and
Yeah.
chat about it. Okay. The best quality or value you think about yourself?
Maybe we should answer this for each other.
Oh, okay.
Because I definitely think that Alice's sort of ability to stick to her morals and vision are her best trait. Now Alice has to pick one for me.
No, well, you've got lots of good traits. I don't know which one's the best one. I think just you're so positive as a person, but also you just make things happen. Like you just get things done. Awesome. You're very practical.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good qualities. Okay. Kind of qualities you look for in others, like not each other, but I guess maybe team or in general.
Yeah, just
I know mine.
Ooh.
Mine is that people do what they say they'll do.
Yeah.
That is my big one.
Yeah.
So yeah, flakiness is a real pet peeve.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. That's cool. Nice.
For me, I guess just being a nice person. I know it sounds like a cliche, but somebody who's just nice and cares about other people, and at work, I guess. Somebody who's going to be a good team player and not, leave it to everybody else, but gets involved. And
Good stuff. Okay, nice. What's one thing in your life that you value most? This can be a material thing.
A material thing?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Or if there's no material, if you want it to be an immaterial, but...
I think time. I
Ooh,
think
that's a
time.
good one.
And I hate it when time is commodified, and I also hate it when people like have their lives planned out so that they know where they're going to be in 3 months on a Tuesday afternoon. So,
So freedom.
Oh, that's a good one.
freedom.
Freedom,
Free time.
definitely.
Free time. I'm going to just join you on that because I actually think
That is
that's
a good
really good one.
Yeah. Very good
Yeah.
one. Okay, and final question. If you could impose one law, what would it be?
It's really hard.
So my quick fire were never easy.
God. I don't know. For me, I would definitely want to do something about like plastics or some. I think sometimes regulation is the best way to make a big change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think it's really hard for, say, like businesses to make decisions just off their own back.
I
If there's
second
regulation, then everyone's in the same boat. Everyone has to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a transition time, and
You're right. I think
it's sort of an equal thing.
to force everyone to do the right thing and to hold everyone to account is the only way we're going to deal with things like climate change effectively.
Yeah.
And just expecting good people to do good things and leave bad people to do bad things isn't going to be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just more of that type of thing.
Okay. Good one. Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Business owners are asking for more regulation.
I know, right? And they're good. But then, like you said, you know, a lot of people, small businesses have got those values and will do it anyway. It's just making sure that the big guys do it as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a whole nother topic that we could go into, right? Okay, so let's go back. Let's stick to our guns and come back to our topic of sticking to your guns. So I want to hear kind of the story of how it all started, because I think intrinsic in what I've heard you talk about, even in this short time, there's loads of value in that for anyone thinking about starting something up, turning that idea to reality. So I'm just going to kind of open it up and say, can you tell us your story of how Steep Street Coffee House all started?
Yes. I guess it took a while, didn't it? So it was something we talked about from when we first met. We wanted to do something. I don't know. I wanted to have a cafe.
Alice was you always knew that you wanted to be self-employed. And both our parents were self-employed.
Yeah.
So I think we had an understanding of the differences between being employed and self-employed. And you were very keen to have your own business.
Yeah, I did want to. And I think it was definitely just an idea for ages. And it grew.
Yeah.
It's quite nice because it just grew. We'd spend time talking about it, and it was just really like a dream that we'd talk about every now and then. And then
mainly when we went on holiday.
When
we had a little break from our lives as they were, we would be frantically business planning, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and we were always researching and going to places that we liked. And
great excuse for going for coffee.
Exactly.
Right?
We love coffee shops.
Yeah.
And still love going to lots of coffee shops. And so it was just, it took a long time. And I think that's quite nice to spend a lot of time researching something, because then you get to really know what you want to do and how you want to do it. And then at a certain point, I think we just decided to take the plunge.
It really is a story. Is there time for it?
Go for it.
I'll condense it. But basically, we had a hotel voucher for, at the time, it was £20 from booking.com or something. Something had gone wrong. And we just did a search. We were living in Brighton, and we did a search for where we could go for £20.
Yeah.
And I think one of them was in Eastbourne, a hotel in Eastbourne. Another one was the Grand Burston.
Yeah.
We'd never been to Folkestone. It was a bank holiday weekend in August, years and years ago. This must be four years ago. And we hired a car and we drove over, and we just fell in love with Folkestone. Literally, I mean, we grew up in Hastings. I had been to Folkestone a couple of times in my life, but not many. And we were walking up the old high street, and we just wanted to have a coffee really badly. Yeah. And genuinely, that is where the idea came from.
Yeah, that's when we were like, this is like a place we could do. Yeah. We could do it here.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Awesome. We're very lucky for booking.com.
And the Grand Burston.
Yeah, got to have the benefits. So what was the turnaround time then between kind of walking up and going, I want a coffee right now, to actually being in the shop? Because in terms of kind of my experience of it, it was suddenly like, oh my god, where's a really cool shop
It
that's
wasn't
suddenly popped
very
up?
long, was it?
It really wasn't long at
Because
all.
did you say it was a bank holiday? Was
It
it
was
May bank holiday?
It may have been May or it
Might
may have
have
been
been-
August.
I can't remember.
Maybe it was May.
Might have been
To give
May.
us time, because we got the keys at the start of October that year,
Wow.
and that was from like starting point of total sort of the very, very beginning
Yeah,
to us getting the keys was probably months, wasn't it?
Yeah.
that is
We just got a bit
impressive.
obsessed with it, didn't we? We were like just
Hounding the...
hounding the poor CF about the
Oh.
property. Like, we really want it. But anyway.
So when you were in that really early stage then, when it was like you were starting it all up, you know, our topic as a whole for this month is vision and values, and we're talking about sticking to our guns.
Yeah.
What were some of the key things that were really important to you both when you went, right, this idea is happening, and then you've got to sort through and work out, kind of you go, idea, vision, values, all this exciting stuff, and then you go, reality,
Yeah.
practicality. What was that kind of balancing act like, and what were some of the values?
I think firstly, like, we knew how we wanted it to look, and so there was a thing about how actually you make an idea in your head into actually something real, and the budget that you've got, and just not compromising too much, because obviously like some things are expensive, and it's just, yeah, we had to make sure that we made it look the way we really wanted to and didn't compromise too much there, but managed to do it in a way we could afford.
Yeah.
And then obviously like what you're offering to people, the quality of the stuff you're offering, and we really wanted to make sure that we made everything
Yeah.
on the premises,
Yeah.
and that was really important. So yeah, just making sure that we did that, because it's so easy to not, there's so many easier ways to do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just try not to compromise on that, and also just the way we wanted it to be, like as how we wanted the team to run, and how we wanted to function like as a
Yeah.
business. And that was a big learning curve, wasn't it? Taking people on and trying to create the right culture. And
So from
Yeah.
the outset, I think vision-wise, we knew exactly what we wanted it to look like, we wanted it to feel like, the quality of stuff, the sourcing of stuff, making stuff. We had pretty much no experience of doing it, did we? And we had to learn on the job, and that was hard. That was genuinely hard.
Yeah.
And seeing through to a way, I think when you're working really hard and you're you need to keep some sense of sort of perspective and vision, and make sure things are going to get better, because obviously when you're starting off, you're learning. That's very hard to make time to improve things and to look at things with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that
and to still be creative with things.
Mm.
Like even now, just coming up with new recipes or a new cake, or I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just putting the time in.
Yeah. What was, it goes back to time, doesn't it? The tricky
Yeah,
one.
that's true.
What were some of the hardest things at that early stage, like, or the hardest decisions you had to make that maybe were or weren't a compromise?
What do you...
getting open in time, I mean, we set ourselves a mad deadline. So we got the keys in October, and we opened in November. And
That's
looking
impressive.
back, that was maybe pushing ourselves just a bit too
Yes.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was insane
that
as
was
a
crazy.
month. Like, we literally were just
That
flat
was
out
mad.
in it.
It was really fun doing it all up, but I think almost when we actually opened, we were exhausted by the time we opened, because we were like working till 11, 12 every night, just doing DIY basically.
Building shelves
Yeah.
and
Stuff like that, and then we literally opened in a mad rush. We just about got open for the Christmas light switch on, and then it was really busy. We were like, oh my god,
I think that was
we
the
didn't have anyone working there or anything. Just
that
your
was the
parents.
second hardest thing,
Yeah.
because everyone at the time had tried to prepare us for it to be very, very quiet
Yeah.
and a very hard place to make a business success.
Yeah.
So we opened and it was ridiculously busy, and we just assumed that it would end. We're like, this is like a honeymoon phase. It will last
Yeah.
a week, and then we just held off, and we didn't want to take people on because we didn't want to let them down.
Yeah.
And that's something we've always tried to do, is give people totally fixed hours so that the business fluctuations are on us and not on them.
Yeah.
And so we were holding off from taking people on and working like crazy things. And it was only really in the February, so sort of like 3 months in, that we were like, well, this is just how it's going to be. And so I think in retrospect, it was a big mistake.
Mental.
It was
when you look at it. It was like, we were just like, we're definitely not going to do well, so we just shouldn't. I mean, it was just a really weird attitude.
That's really funny, isn't it? Like, yeah, preparing for success or preparing for...
Almost preparing for it to just definitely not be any sort of success.
Yeah. Was that because it was just being cautious, or you kind of didn't want to get your hopes up, or was it because...
I think we just started to, because so many people warned us, oh God, it's crazy, you're crazy, and
everyone from people passing the shop when we're doing work, the people that we had doing the jobs. And even when we did our
business plan, the projections we did, people were like, no, that's not, it's going to be a lot, it's going to be a real struggle. So we were like, okay, we'll just,
I think we planned our business plan to have 30 customers a day. Yeah. That was what we were planning for.
Yeah, so it was totally different from the reality. And then, so that was hard to adjust to. And then probably the other hardest thing was taking on a team and learning how to manage that, as we said, giving everyone set hours and not obviously sending people home when it's quiet, but just having to learn the patterns of the business and learn how to rota and how much you can expect someone to do and how that was quite hard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we were definitely then we were overstaffed for ages, I would say.
I think we didn't. Yeah, we learned how to run the business.
Yeah.
Doing the business.
Best way, but
by fire. I think in a way that first year it was really just one massive learning curve.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? And a lot of the mistakes we made were good mistakes to make, I think, and we definitely learnt a lot from them. But in retrospect, we probably made things much harder for ourselves than we ever needed to, and it was much more chaotic. And there were probably simple solutions that we were too close to see.
And we weren't managing our time well because we were doing something like 6 days a week, weren't we? And just so much involved in it. I think sometimes you need to step back a bit, and then you actually get a bit clearer vision and you can organise things.
And that's genuinely true. I think when we went to Belgium, I don't know, it must have been 9 months in, and had 3 or 4 days off, and the amount of stuff we sorted being away from the business was probably more than we did in the previous 9 months. We just got that perspective, and that was really healthy. And I think I would advise anyone, once you've set it up, to then just take days off and look at it.
Because you feel at the time you feel like you need to be there every second, but it's not necessarily the best thing.
No.
And are you able to take a little bit more time off now? I see it quite often in there, but you're able to get more time out.
And we've got such a good team now, a really lovely team who are absolutely brilliant.
And it is trusting, and I think it's very hard when you've created something and you don't feel you can trust this, what is essentially a baby, and it's screaming a bit like a baby because things going wrong, and you've never dealt with the issues that are inevitable in anything that you do. And now we're sort of old hacks, we pretty much know everything that can happen, and so there's a way of dealing with that. But when you're dealing with it for the first time, it's quite hard to...
It's quite scary because things happen and you've never had to deal with them before, and you
have to forge the solution.
You just have to sort of make it up on the spot, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you probably don't do the best, it takes a while to learn how's the best way to deal with something.
Yeah. And I guess it sounds like we were talking briefly before, weren't we, about this idea of you start a business and you think it's going to be one way and you set your values here, but the reality of the business is different, and kind of, like you said, growing into and letting the kind of trying to stick to those values, but also seeing what values naturally occur.
Yeah, exactly.
And then going, that's what they really are.
It's a sort of both, isn't it?
Are there any more that have come out? Like you mentioned about the environmental stuff. You mentioned obviously about the team. Is there anything, and the kind of the look of it, is there anything new that's come out, other sorts of values that you've learned, or is it just been a case of cementing what you thought were important to you most?
Alice has, I'd say, always had very, very strong moral ideas about how we run the business, and you always stick to your guns, don't you? When it comes down to
the things I really believe in at the core, the things I've always believed in from the beginning. And then I don't know, we sometimes with our team we we tried to get together, everybody get together, and we talk about the business and the values that we have and what they value about it as well, which is quite nice, isn't it? Because
very helpful, because we're
really helpful. Yeah, other things have come up, or you know, how to, you know, just how to sort of improve it, or what's good about it.
I think that's probably something something I've learned is that for it to be good, it has to have lots of people wanting it to be good, and one person wanting it to be good and lots of people not wanting it to be good doesn't work in any business. and people are really passionate. Most people really want to apply themselves to what they do. Yeah,
and they all add something special and extra, which is really a lovely thing when you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sort of makes it even better. So.
And what we tend to do is at our training sessions is get everyone to write on post-it notes things they think we could do better, and then swap them all around, and everyone has to come up with solutions to the things that other people have got as problems.
Nice.
And it's quite a nice way to get everyone in a sort of democratic way without people fearing for what they're going to be saying about other people they work with in the team, or just to make it neutral and to come up with genuine bottom-up solutions to...
Yeah, because then everyone feels a bit more empowered, don't they?
Yeah, because I think it's quite common, isn't it, for people to go, you know, or business owners to go, right, we want to hear your feedback, okay, and then we'll take the feedback and we'll work out. But I really like, that you just go, and then you're going to come up with the solutions as well to each other's problems.
Because they know it, because they all know it. We all know it just the same. They know it as well as us. And everybody has to deal with those problems on a daily basis, and nobody wants to deal with those problems.
It's also humbling to know when you take people on that often they're a lot better than you.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
That's what they say, don't they? Hire people, you know, a good boss or a good leader hires people better than them, because that's the point, right?
Yeah, because they've got lots of strengths that you don't have, and it's absolutely brilliant, isn't it?
It is, humbling and brilliant.
Things that you just never thought of.
Do you think your approach and that ability, because I think a lot of people, you know, running kind of businesses of any size just wouldn't think to do such simple things as that. Is it because you think, you know, were you working in businesses where that was done or where it wasn't done, and you were like, I wish this would be more without upsetting anyone if you're gonna.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess the charity I worked for was quite good in that way, in that there was a lot of it wasn't exactly like that, but it was just there was a lot of discussion in the office. Everyone could have an opinion, and it was quite open, and not much of it. They're not a massive hierarchy as well, which was quite nice.
Whereas the company I worked for was exactly the opposite, and I think I reacted very emotionally, probably when I was employed to sort of information not being shared, and I think that is something that we are all very guilty of as humans, is when something happens, taking it personally. And I think something that we've tried to do really hard at the cafe is whenever we've had to do anything is explain why, and start from the idea that you have to explain literally everything, and that takes people with you, because I think as soon as you stop explaining, then people allocate motives that aren't your motives, and I think that then can create a bad atmosphere. And I think that is definitely the lesson I learned from where I was working, and it was quite an emotional and high-strung company. And I think that the implication is that when work becomes an emotional thing like that, I think it's always toxic, and I don't think it's a good thing. I think we want our staff to be able to finish their shift and not think about work. I think that's a sort of a right in a way, and I think it's horrible when it doesn't, and it affects you emotionally and you take it home with you, and that's a real sort of big no for me from my experience before.
Definitely. It's definitely saying, even though, you know, I guess customers don't know and get all this kind of insight, you don't explain to them every day, but you can just feel it. I think the impact is intangible, but it comes across, and that's why, you know, it's always busy. It's always like, okay, right, are we going to find a seat, because it's always packed, right? So yeah, definitely doing something right. As intangible and hard to kind of articulate as it is, but no, it's been really great. So is there any tips then that you would like, or a summary of what you'd say to other people, either looking to start a new business or in an existing business that want to kind of, that their values are important, but they haven't felt they've quite managed to get them across and get them out there as they want to?
I think, I don't know, just taking some time maybe to remind yourself of what they are, so that, and then just being honest with yourself about whether you're actually keeping them, and if you feel like you need to move towards them a bit more, just thinking of like a step plan, like just little things you could do, I guess. Because you know, nobody, you might not be able to do it perfectly, but there might just be little things that you can do that make
you feel better.
Yeah.
And then more likely to take the next step.
You do it gradually. It doesn't.
And I think it is definitely that thing about, we're just saying, not trying never to react emotionally to things. And we were saying before we started talking on film that in business there's lots of pressure to do things in a certain way or for profit to be the thing, and there's lots of fairly nasty pressures that I think you have to deliberately put to one side in your brain. And I think actually doing the cafe, I was working at the company I was working at, I keep talking about, but they were going through quite severe financial problems, now making people redundant, and I now look back at the MD and I really understand where, I think she was under a lot of pressure and it was a horrible situation, whereas I was working there, I just didn't understand. I just thought it was just really bad management. And that's probably because she didn't hide the emotions that she was going through, and she snapped and she was
didn't explain her position maybe,
and probably didn't step back and try not to be emotional, and she just succumbed to these pressures, and they are there and they are very negative, I think, a lot of the pressures. And if you just try and remember what it was you were trying to do at the start and not succumb to the pressure and all the bad influences, and try and do good.
Definitely. Really good tips there, really good lessons. So we could talk for ages, but we're going to start to wrap it up. Is there anything you want to say in terms of anything you've got kind of coming up, or how people can, if they haven't been to Steep Street, they should definitely come. But is there anything else that like is coming next? What's the next stage for you guys?
Well, just a thing that people could come and see is the book festival in Folkestone is happening soon, and we're putting on a few little events, and it's always a really nice time of year in the cafe.
Awesome.
Obviously, we've got all the books, and it's sort of cosy and wintry. So
Nice.
that's a good time for people to come. Anything else?
We've got some new coffees we're roasting, and then we've got a baby on the way, which
Hey,
is
congratulations!
Yes.
Oh, congratulations!
which will probably dominate the next few months, but
Oh, congratulations. Very exciting. What a lovely note to finish on.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely lovely. If you are on the old High Street in Folkestone, if people haven't been, I'm sure they have. Every time there's a comment on Facebook like, oh, want to go for coffee, where should I go, blah, blah, blah. Steep Street's always in there. So I'd be surprised if there was anyone who didn't know you guys. But if people want to find you on social, Steep Street Coffee House, is that right?
Steep __ street.
Okay.
And the website address is steepstreet.co.uk.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Alice, Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.